Good morning and welcome to our AI session. It's an honor to share the content with you today. And for anyone joining who I've not yet met in person, hello. My name's Rob May and I'm the founder and the executive chairman here at ramsac. Industry analysts Analytica define me as a technologist and an AI thought leader. And I spend a lot of my time traveling the country, giving keynote talks or running AI masterclasses. Yesterday, I was in Westminster briefing the power sector. Tonight, I'll be in Doncaster. And tomorrow, I'm speaking on AI in the leisure industry. Finally, in my spare time, I love to write books. And my latest book, Unbreakable Business, having just been released, is currently number 20 in the Amazon Business Book Chart. What I've got in store for you today is as follows. We'll take a look at changes in the AI industry, and I'll show you some of the platform updates. We'll discuss how to be better at prompting. We'll discuss agentic and collaborative AIs, explore the importance of AI policies, of data security, and creating a sensible AI strategy. And then we'll follow up with some suggested next steps for you on your AI journeys. Please keep your questions to the end, or alternatively pop them in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer as many of them as possible, either on this session or as follow-ups. McKinsey & Co have said that true leaders will be digitally transforming their organizations for the rest of their careers. And I think that's true. We've all always been digitally transforming throughout our work lives. To me, digital transformation is simply the application of new technology so as to increase our efficiency, our productivity, and our profitability. The World Wide Web didn't exist when I started ramsac, and that was certainly digital transformation, as were smartphones, the cloud, software as a service, and so on and so forth. All things that you can't imagine not using now. And AI is simply the current vogue digital transformation focus for many. How we talk about AI is really important. It worries some people, and we have to give them reassurance. I was talking to someone at the BBC recently, and she said that the one thing that didn't sit easy for her was the phrase artificial intelligence. And my suggestion was, rather than thinking about this as artificial intelligence, think about it as assistive intelligence. And I think for many, that reframing is really useful. The other thing, many of you will have read Simon Sinek's Start With Why. And I think that's really important as well when it comes to our discussions with staff and colleagues around AI. The what in the conversation is AI, but that's not what we should be discussing. We should be discussing the why, and the why is productivity. And even if you were to just give your people the free tools that are now part of Windows and part of Edge, if you were to only give your people access to those and train them how to use them, they could very easily gain at least 12 minutes every single working day. And if you work on the basis that of an average working week, 12 minutes extra per person per day would give each member of staff an extra week in their year of productive time. AI might be a hot topic, but I think it's interesting. Alan Turing asked, "Can machines think?" back in 1950. That's 75 years ago. And yet this question continues to resonate today as we grapple with AI and systems that increasingly passed parts of the Turing test, even though that we now realize that thinking is far more complex and multidimensional than simply a single binary outcome. People often say to me that they're using AI, but what does that mean? There are so many different aspects of AI, and the definition of AI is the science and engineering of creating intelligent machines that can mimic human intelligence and behavior. And this diagram that you can see here on the screen highlights the interconnected nature of the various different branches of AI, all of which contribute to the development of intelligent systems. And different types of organization will focus on different aspects of AI as well. But each branch plays a specific role in helping AI understand, interact with, and respond to the world in ways that mimic or sometimes maybe surpass human capabilities. I just thought it was interesting to share this chart with you. Many of you have seen me speak before and will have seen previous versions of this. This is the AI market share in Q1 of 2025. And a lot of people argue that ChatGPT and Microsoft Copilot are perhaps the same because of the ownership. Between them, they've got 74% of market share. Gemini is growing. Definitely that's up from last quarter, as is Perplexity. And Claude's interesting. So Claude is from Anthropic, and Anthropic actually came out of OpenAI. OpenAI are the company who own ChatGPT, and the directors came out of ChatGPT and formed Claude. So I think that's interesting. What's not on this chart, but we're seeing growth in as well, is Grok. So Grok is Elon Musk's AI, originally integrated into X, the platform formerly known as Twitter. It's now a standalone application. And I think one of the things that's really interesting is the conversations that they're having about integrating Grok now into Teslas. And that will be a real first in terms of that application of seeing AI within a motor vehicle. By now, I'm sure that you're aware of the huge success of ChatGPT. It was the first app to ever get to 1 million users. And to ever get to 1 million users in 5 days. So when you look at some of the other big platforms, Netflix, for example, took 3.5 years to get to 1 million users. And Twitter took 2 years. ChatGPT took 5 days. And they went on to get to 100 million users in 60 days of being released. So massive success, and there are very few people who haven't heard of ChatGPT. But what I find when I'm working with organizations around the country is that there's continued confusion about what versions people are using and what does that actually mean. And this awareness is really important. So we start with the free version. And if we go back to this concept of assistive intelligence, think of the AI tool that you're using, whatever tool it is, think of it as an assistant. Think of it as an intern, an EA, or a work experience person, whatever you like, but think of it as an assistant. The free version of ChatGPT, your assistant is 12 years old. If you pay for ChatGPT at $20, you get Plus. Now, this is designed for a single user. When you're paying for it, the AI, the ChatGPT, is now much more capable. And I liken this isn't an exact model, but I liken this to your assistant now being 18. And because they're 18, they think they know everything. Now, of course, they don't, but at least they finished compulsory education. When ChatGPT first came out, there were only these two versions, and people paid not just because it made it more intelligent and more capable and allowed you more more requests during a day. The other reason people paid was because that gave them privacy. It meant that the data that they were sharing wasn't being used for learning or training of the system. Unfortunately, last year that changed. And if you want that now, then you need to be on the team version and you need to upgrade to team. Team is $25 per user per month, and you have to have a minimum of 2 users. But it's that gets you privacy and excludes your data from training by default. There's then also the enterprise version, and lots of large enterprises are now signing up. The first of which, and I think this is really interesting, the first international enterprise that signed an agreement with ChatGPT was PwC. And I thought that was really interesting because PwC are very openly a Google house. They moved away from Microsoft to G Suite, and yet they've licensed every employee in the UK and the US to use ChatGPT Enterprise, not choosing to go the Gemini route, which is Google's AI. One of the things that has changed massively since Christmas is proper conversational AI, and a number of AIs are doing this. Gemini are doing it. It's just coming to Copilot on the Microsoft platform. It came first on ChatGPT. And this really changes things. So you've always been able to dictate. So when you are asking a question, you can type a message, or you've been able to dictate. If you dictate, obviously, whatever you say goes into the typing box. But what you've now also got is the converse button. So you can interrupt it. If you think about the frustration of using something like Alexa, for example, when you ask it a question and then it gives you a very long protracted answer, even though it might be the wrong answer. With conversational AI, you interrupt it and you say, no, I'm sorry, that's not what I meant, or whatever. So that's huge. And I think I use this in a number of ways. I use it in a meeting room where before you might have had one person sat around a laptop and other people saying, oh, what about this? And someone types it. Now you can all be chatting to it, and what happens, it's processing, it's answering you in whatever voice that you want to use, but also it's then putting that onto your computer. I also use this when I'm walking or when I'm in the car, so you can just be getting your assistant to be following up on your ideas and your thoughts, so that when you sit down at your desk, you've already got a whole load of work done. One of the things that the UK has to do is upskill its workforce in being good at prompting. How we talk to an AI is called prompting. And if you talk to an AI in the same way that you talk to Google, you will get rubbish results. We have to think differently. And when I'm teaching prompting, what I talk about is I've come up with this model of going into a sandwich shop. And if you think of it like this, if you were to walk into a sandwich shop and say, please, can I have a sandwich? They will give you a sandwich. But it might not be the sandwich that you want. And that's a bit like doing a Google search. You type a search and you get thousands and thousands of results, pages and pages of results based on the search that you gave. With prompting, think of it like this. You go into a sandwich shop and you say, please, can I have a sandwich? I would like chicken breast and Gouda cheese and red shredded cabbage, mayonnaise, no butter on sourdough bread. And assuming that that's the sandwich that you want, that's the sandwich that you get. So being very precise with your instructions and with your thinking gets you much, much better results. And one of my AI books is called The Sandwich Shopper Prompting. And it's a series of lessons that you can follow to become really good at prompting and really good at talking to the AI. Since I came up with this model, incidentally, I've become an absolute nightmare when I do go into a sandwich shop. Framing is also really important. When you talk to your AI, set the AI up into a mode that you want it to operate in. So start your prompt with, you are a recruiter specializing in sales, for example, or you are a UK lawyer specializing in family law. If you say that, you will get a specific question based on UK law. If you don't specify that and you ask a legal question, it's going to give you an answer based on its knowledge of law all around the world. You're a coach working with leadership teams, or you are a Twitter or X social media guru. So an example here. So I said to ChatGPT, you are a Twitter guru who's seen thousands of outstanding bios. Here's my bio. And at the time, my bio was cybersecurity ambassador, AI thought leader, founder at Ramsac, TEDx Vistage and keynote speaker, author, human firewall, harnessing AI, information security. And then I said, please rate it out of 10. If it's not 10 out of 10, please tell me what I'm missing. And finally, using your Twitter knowledge, please make this bio 10 out of 10 so that more people will follow me. That is a really useful framework for a prompt. I use that all the time. Some of you will know that one of my other speaker subjects is GDPR, because, you know, I'm quite rock and roll. And anyway, we had updated our GDPR policy here at Ramsac, and my colleague who had done it brought it to me and said, Rob, could you just review this and give some feedback? And I said, yes, of course I can, but let's also use AI. And my prompt was, you are a GDPR expert working at the ICO for the last 10 years. I'm going to share with you our GDPR policy. Please, can you rate it out of 10? And if it's not 10 out of 10, tell me what I need to add to make it 10 out of 10. It's a much more useful framework than giving an AI a document or a passage of text or whatever it happens to be and asking for feedback, because you're giving it a model in which to give you feedback. One of the other things that I'd like to highlight for you, on the Ramsac website, if you go to ramsac.com/prompting, one of the things that we've created is, for as many job roles as we can think of, we're creating AI guides. So how can you use AI in your role? And here are 50 suggested prompts that you might want to use in your job role. It's totally free. Some of the job roles, that when you look at them, you'll think that job role doesn't exist in my organization. The feedback that I've got from people is it's really useful even looking at those ones, because again, you see another 50 prompts and people are saying, I never would have thought to have asked it to do that. So that's really useful. Also, this is a growing resource. So when you go to it, if there is a job role that we haven't included that you want an AI guide on, drop me an email and we will make sure that that gets added to the resource site. But I hope that that's a good, useful resource. You can set within your AI, you can set custom instructions. And I think this is really useful to do. So in my simple setup, so in my generic AI setup, I've said, please always use UK English in terms of spelling, so that it's not, full of Zs. Never tell me as a large language model or as an artificial intelligence, I already know you're an LLM. Please just tell me the answer. And the reason that's there is quite often you'll ask a question and the answer will start with, certainly, as an artificial intelligence, I can assist you. I don't need that. Just get on and tell me the answer. I've also said, if you don't know the answer, please say so. That's really important. Many of you will have heard of AI hallucinations. AI hallucinations are where it gives you a false answer convincingly. And the reason it gives you that false answer is because all AIs have been programmed by default to give you an answer, whether they know it or not. They've not been given the instruction to say it's all right to say I don't know. So you need to say that it's all right to say I don't know if you don't. And then this is the last line here in my custom instructions. I've said, please avoid the use of M dashes and use commas instead. M dashes is very vogue in American communication. And all of a sudden, all over LinkedIn, you're seeing people submitting articles and they are absolutely littered with M dashes. And I've just said, just don't use M dashes. Please use commas instead, because that's more the typical English standard that we use. I was at a AI event with Microsoft a couple of months ago now, and Satya Nadella, the CEO, was keynoting. And he made this statement. He said, I use AI to think with, and I use my colleagues to work with. And when he said it, I thought, that's brilliant. And it perfectly surmises how I use AI. I've created an AI version of my entire leadership team. Now, I work all sorts of silly hours of the day that aren't particularly in line with hours that other people work. So the fact that I've created an AI version of each of my colleagues, I'm able to ask them questions to help develop my thinking. And then when I sit down with them in person, I'm already much further forward with where I'm at. What I would say to you is that AI consistently produces a B minus. AI consistently produces a B minus. And if you were to only work with AIs, or if you were to ask AIs to do your work for you, and then you submit that as if it was you, you will make yourself look silly. Remember, your assistant is 18. And if that was a physical person, you wouldn't ask an 18-year-old to write your board report and then you submit it to the board. But you might ask them to do a whole load of prep work for you and gathering data. That's exactly how we should be using AI. What you've then got to do is take that B minus and, using your knowledge and your intelligence, turn it into an A star. Within paid versions of AI, all of them are now give you the option to create focused, tailored models. So in ChatGPT, they're called custom GPTs. In Copilot, they're called agents. In Gemini, they're called gems. And what you're able to do there, when I said that I've created an AI version of each of my leadership team, that's what I've done. I've got an agent that is, head of finance, and an agent that is head of marketing, and so on and so forth, so that I can ask questions and get feedback. And this is, I think, really, really exciting. What I've also done, by the way, when I've created those agents or those custom GPTs, I've then handed them over to the real person to say, this is what I've created. This is what I want from you in AI format, but you're the domain expert. I'm not. So can you now continue to train it so that you make it better and better? And there's a couple of things there. One, I think it helps them because they can use their own agent and help them do work, and it increases productivity. The other thing is that I've had some really interesting conversations where when I've shared that, my colleagues have said, "Oh, I didn't know that was important to you," or "I didn't know you would want to know that." So that's great as well. Copilot, which is Microsoft's implementation of ChatGPT in effect. Copilot is, I think, amazing and can do an awful lot for us. One of the challenges I think Microsoft have right now is, do people see value, and do they see enough value in giving enough licenses to enough people, or is it very limited? But one of the great places where it works is in Teams. And if you've got Copilot in Teams, I think the added productivity that it gives you is brilliant. Standard Teams gives you transcript. It lets you record a meeting and it will create a transcript. If you've got Copilot, what that then does is you can ask it to turn that transcript into minutes of the meeting. You can ask it to send the minutes to the attendees. You can ask it to point out to-do lists for each of those attendees. Really, really powerful. And I think one of the things that's interesting is Microsoft have bought out a premium version of Teams. Now, the premium version of Teams gives you that functionality within Teams without needing to add Copilot for everybody else. And part of me wonders, and Microsoft haven't said this, but part of me wonders whether the future is that we will see premium versions of all of Office. So you'd have a PowerPoint premium for those users who do PowerPoint and so on. But overall, I mean, everyday use of Copilot for me is it's so time saving. I thought I'd share with you some of the prompts that I regularly use in Copilot. So what should be on my radar from my emails last week? I came back from half-term break and I'd got all of my emails, and I just said to Copilot, well, this question, what should be on my radar from my emails last week? It gave me a summary. It intelligently saw that one of the emails was relating to a meeting that I had the next day, and it flagged that to me. But it also goes deeper than that, because I'd had a conversation with a colleague who had promised me an answer to a question by the end of the previous week, and Copilot said to me, your colleague hasn't yet answered. It's brilliant. I mean, this is an AI EA, isn't it? Summarize Teams messages and when you type your prompt, if you press the / key, then what that does is it gives you a list of all your colleagues. So summarize Teams messages where one of your colleagues was mentioned or where you were mentioned. And dependent on how your data is configured, that will go across all Teams messages that you've got access to within your organization and say, oh, you were mentioned in this meeting and in that meeting and in this meeting. Summarize my emails, chats, and presentations from last week. I can just get it to go through everything and give me a summation of the week. Create a to-do list for my Teams meetings on any particular day or date. You know what it's like? Some days I will have an entire day, it seems, where I go from one Teams meeting to the next. And this is the real downside, isn't it, of Teams? There is no breathing space in between. There's no traveling from an appointment to another appointment. So I think in days like that, I'll prompt at the end of the day and I'll say, create me a to-do list for my Teams meetings today. And meeting by meeting, it gives me a summary of actions that I need to take. Again, really, really powerful. Big change in the last month or so, I suppose, is what we're seeing as collaborative chat on AIs. And for this demonstration, I'm using ChatGPT, but again, the collaborative chat is across all the platforms where we're seeing it rolled out. And the significance of collaborative chat is up until probably January, if you asked AI a question, it would give you an answer. And you might not like the answer, so you would ask it another question and it would give you another answer. Or you'd say, oh, no, I don't mean it like that. Do it like this. What you've got with collaborative chat, you start off. So here I can ask it anything. So I can type what my message is, or you'll see here I've got my converse button. So I could just speak to it and ask it. Here, I've typed a question and I've said, how might typical UK English communication styles be misinterpreted in China? And it gives me an answer. What you've now got, you'll see at the bottom of the screen here, there's a pencil icon. I can either click on the pencil icon or I can type the word canvas. And what now happens is it moves the answer that it's created into what is in effect a Word document. It's not in Word, it's in AI. But if you think of it as this is now a working document that we're collaborating on together. So each time I ask it a question, it will rework that part of its answer. And in the right-hand corner, you'll see I've got the pencil again. And if I click on the pencil, I now get a bar pop up with a number of options on it. And when I click on the options, so this one is adjust length, it changes that bar to a slider. Now, if I have not selected any of the documents, if I've just taken the entire document, clicked on length, I can scroll to say make the document longer or make it shorter, or anywhere in between. Equally, you can highlight a sentence, you could highlight a paragraph or a section, click on length, and it will simply make that section or make that sentence longer. I've got adjust reading level, and when I click on adjust reading level, I can now scroll between kindergarten and PhD. Now, I write a lot of technical documents. I always like to end my document with an executive summary. And whenever I do that, I use this tool to lower the reading age for the executive summary, dumb down the summation. I was talking to somebody in the insurance world only last week, and they said, this is amazing because we have to write all of our documents and all of our policies as if people are 10. You know, we've got to use real plain language so that people understand what they're signing up for. There's an emojis button where you can add or remove emojis, or you can replace bullet points with appropriate emojis. Again, I suggest that you're seeing quite a lot of that on LinkedIn at the moment. And then there's add final polish. One of the other things that might happen is if you're on the Teams version, there might be multiple people working on this document. And one of the things that final polish does is when you click on that, there isn't a sliding scale. You just click on go. And what it will do, so here you can see it says I've added some final polish, I've checked for grammar, and I've ensured consistency. It checks that we've got the same tone of voice throughout. So if there's the tone of voice from more than one person, it sanitizes that so that there's a single tone of voice. You can then simply say, if you want to, you can export it and you can say, please save as a Word document, and it will convert that document to a Word document that's now in your download folder on your computer. Please, if you haven't done so already, please can you ensure that you have an AI usage policy within your organization. Some people say to me that we haven't yet got one. And we haven't yet got one because we haven't worked out what we're doing. And I just think that's wrong. And the reason it's wrong is in the lack of direction people will just be doing their own thing, and they'll be using their own tools, and they will be putting you and your organization at risk. And we can't have that. People need to know what they can and they can't do, what versions of the software they can use and they can't use. And, you know, you've just got to get a policy out there. If you need help with a policy, again, let us know, and we can send you a sample policy that you can then build on from that. We wouldn't warrant that as your policy for you to use, because every policy is unique to every organization, but it's a good starting point. And an example of this, I think, you know, if you're using standard programs, so let's say you're using Teams and you've got Copilot in Teams, or you're using Zoom and you've got the AI agent turned on in Zoom. When you have a meeting with a client or whatever, if that meeting is being recorded by the AI agent, both Zoom and Microsoft comply with all European laws, and they do the disclaimer to say that the call is being recorded, and they meet with GDPR regulations and so on. The issue is lots of people are playing with different types of AI recording software. And you will have seen it. You will have started a Teams call with somebody, and somebody's AI agent tries to join the call. Now, of course, you can eject that agent if you want to, but it's really important. And one of the things is, I know through experience that there are some of these AI tools that firstly don't meet with the legal regulations, but also they're not disclaiming. You cannot record a meeting without telling the attendees that the meeting is being recorded. When you join a Teams meeting and it's being recorded, it tells you, and it's there for the entire duration of the meeting. I just thought I'd show you an example of this going wrong. We had a call with one of our suppliers, and it was with one of my technical teams. And at the end of the call, everybody on the call automatically received an email. Very, very efficient, sure. But let me share what happened. So everybody got the email, and it said the following meeting notes are AI generated and automatically sent. And the email said, meeting purpose, technical discussion between, I've removed the name of the supplier, and Ramsac. Topics, holiday plans. Jessica is going to Jamaica in November for her first all-inclusive holiday. She's going with her mum and her mum's Greek friends who are heavy drinkers. Jessica is concerned that her mum won't be able to set boundaries around drinking. Helping set boundaries. Jessica plans to use this trip to teach her mum how to set boundaries. Her mum tends to go along with things even if she's uncomfortable. Jessica's more assertive and she can model boundary setting behaviour. Next steps. Jessica and her mum to go on the Jamaica trip in November. Jessica to help her mum practice saying no to setting limits. Ramsac then joined the call. So all of that conversation had gone on before the meeting properly got started. Now, I want to go on holiday with Jessica's mum, but I think it's really important that people know that they're using the right tools. And again, this comes back to the policy piece. But I also think that we need to start to change our thinking in as much as how often are you on a Teams call with, you know, a whole bunch of colleagues, and at the end of it, you will say, oh, Alan, could you just stay on the call for 5 minutes? I've just got something I want to discuss with you. We need to think, well, the call could still be being minuted. So we've got to get into the practice of ending calls and then jumping on another call where we don't start AI recording. Helping our staff with the adoption of AI is really important. And we have to train people. And you know, it amazes me how many people have started to use AI. They might be using ChatGPT, for example, but they've never been on a training course. Nobody's shown them how to get the best out of it. And that's a waste of time and money, because people can get so much out of this. Equally, I think a lot of people are nervous and people put up barriers. You'll suggest that somebody uses a particular AI tool and they might say to you, well, I've tried it and it's rubbish. It's not rubbish. And whenever someone says to me it's rubbish, my question is, okay, when did you try? Microsoft recently said that Copilot is doubling in capability every 6 months. So if you tried Copilot 6 months ago and you thought it was rubbish, don't think that it's a rubbish platform, because it's drastically different today. When did you try it? Also, how good were you at using it? Did you speak to it like Google, or did you professionally prompt it? So we need to train people, and I think it helps as well if you've got a program of AI training. It helps them feel that they're being included in the process and that they understand the productivity gains that we're all having to achieve in business today. One of the questions that worries people is, will AI mean that I lose my job? And Harvard Business Review did an article last year, and it ended with a summary that said AI won't replace humans, but humans who use AI will replace humans that don't. And I think that perfectly sums it up. When I'm speaking to a room full of people live, I'll split the room in half and I'll say, right, if I were to set a quiz now and say the people on the left of the room can answer the quiz using Google, and the people on the right half of the room can answer the quiz using the public library, of course, the people on the left will win because of the efficiency. It's no different to us using AI tools. Now, it can't do everything that you do in your organization, but it can do an awful lot in terms of assisting and being more productive. I also think that the conversation needs to be around the fact that AI is definitely a helping hand. It augments what people do. It's assistive. Microsoft have called all of their AIs co-pilots. There isn't a single autopilot. And if you think about that, a co-pilot sits alongside you and they help you on your journey. They help you to get to where you want to go. And that's the assistive intelligence that we've been talking about this morning. Before we move on to the next section of the session, I just want to mention GEO. So traditional SEO, or search engine optimization, is built around optimizing content so that it ranks well on search engines like Google. It focuses on keywords, on backlinks. It looks at the page structure and other technical factors to make sure that a page appears as near to the top of the search results as possible when somebody types a search query. But the way people search is changing. And more people are turning to generative AI tools like ChatGPT or Google Gemini or Microsoft Copilot to get direct human-like answers instead of having to click through a list of links taking you to websites. And these tools don't just pull links. They don't use SEO. They generate answers based on the content that they've been trained on or connected to. And this is where GEO comes in. So GEO is generative engine optimization. And it's about making your content easy for these AI tools to understand, to cite, and use when forming their responses. So it's not about ranking anymore. The challenge with GEO is about being included in the answer. And this means rethinking how we structure content. Content needs to be clear and authoritative, and it needs to use trustworthy language. It needs to give well-structured answers to specific questions. You know, what question might somebody ask? Here's a well-structured answer to that. It needs to be content that's easy for AI to summarize and reference. And it needs to use brand consistency so that your organization is consistently recognized in its AI responses. It's very much early days, but that shift is happening. And GEO and an awareness for you about GEO is about future-proofing your content strategy, because we know that increasingly AI gives the answer to people and not search engines. The most important consideration for any organization when it comes to AI is not what AIs are going to be used, because it's almost certainly more than one. It's about how the organization's existing systems are prepared and reconfigured to ensure that we've got absolute data security, we've got privacy, and we've got appropriate permissions. And implementing Copilot or any AI securely is very much a journey. Think of it like going on holiday. You don't simply turn up at the airport and jump on any random plane. There's plenty of planning and numerous steps that you go through before you can take off. And at Ramsac, we encourage you to think about your AI journey in this way. It's certainly, you know, if you've got security in mind, it's very much more than simply switching it on. It's vital that you do this properly, and preparing your data securely so that your chosen AI can deliver real value in a secure, well-managed way, and to give you as business owners peace of mind that you're doing this properly. So we've developed the Ramsac client data journey, and we take you from a starting point through a structured 6-stage process, ensuring that your data is organized, governed, and protected before, during, and after your AI is fully deployed. So let me walk you through the 6 stages, because these are really important for you to understand. Stage 1 is the Copilot or AI readiness assessment. And we start by evaluating your Microsoft 365 environment through both a technical and an organizational lens. And this is crucial because the Copilot or AI builds its insights from the data and the structures that you already have in place. And any gaps or misconfigurations could either block Copilot's functionality or create risk. And our assessment ensures that you've got the foundations in place so that you can benefit from AI confidently and safely. Think of it as a health check for your data environment. We want to make sure that the engine is running smoothly before we add a powerful new tool to the mix. Stage 2 is the company data audit. So before you can control your data, you need to fully understand it. And in this stage, we shine a light on where your information lives, how it's structured, and who's got access to it. And we usually uncover outdated or overly permissive access, siloed data stores, or often duplicate content, all of which can hinder AI and pose security risks. And I just think, look, you wouldn't let AI and potentially all of your staff read every email you've ever received. And yet, without a data audit, it might. So this stage helps ensure that your AI sees only what it should. Stage 3 is a SharePoint permissions review or overhaul. And once we understand your data, we address how it's accessed. And for some organizations, we've found that a permissions tidy up is enough. But for others, a full SharePoint reorganization is very much needed. Either way, this step ensures that your data is easy to find and only visible to those who genuinely need access to it. So this is where we move from insight to action, really. It's shaping your SharePoint environment. So it's not just secure, but it's user-friendly and it's AI ready. Stage 4 is the technical security controls. So protecting data is about more than who has access. It's also about preventing mistakes. And we implement techniques like data loss prevention, DLP, sensitivity labels and retention policies. And these tools help ensure that information doesn't get accidentally shared or exposed, whether that's by humans or by the AI systems themselves. So even with the best intentions, things can go wrong. And what this stage does is it builds in guardrails to keep your data safe without slowing people down. Stage 5 is the Copilot or AI rollout. So once your data is secure and your environment's in good order, it's time to roll out the AI. And we guide you through this process, ensuring that users are onboarded, trained and supported. We help set expectations, we encourage adoption, and we measure the impact. And this is where the fun really begins. So your Copilot or AI is ready to go. And because you've done the groundwork, it will work better, it will work smarter, and it will be safer right from day one. Stage 6 is the ongoing data maintenance. Good data governance is never finished. And once your AI is in place, we continue to monitor and support your environment to ensure that it stays safe, efficient and compliant. Regular audits, policy reviews and performance tracking help you stay ahead of changes and avoid any risky data drift. AI tools like Copilot evolve, and so should your data strategy. And we're here to help you maintain and improve that long after go live, so that you can take off and reach your desired destination without any fears. So things to do next. Always start with an AI strategy and not an app. Clearly define what processes you're trying to improve by using AI. Get leadership to buy into the problems that you're trying to solve. Complete that data journey to secure AI. Train your people at every level. Ensure that everyone becomes really competent at prompting, and embrace the productivity gains. And then properly socialize your AI policy. Don't just have an AI policy, properly socialize it. Use AI to create videos explaining it and so on, so that everyone clearly understands what they can and can't do. If you want to go deeper on any of this, and especially if you need help in creating an AI strategy and working out what to do next, then I strongly recommend doing our Harnessing AI Masterclass, which is something that I run. And this is either done on site with your entire leadership team, or we run this as a mixed open session aimed at individual attendees. It's held, that open mix session's held in our Guildford offices. We run it once a month, every month, and it includes building an AI strategy, better prompting, AI ethics and training, and how do we develop the use of AI in your teams. Sessions start at 9 o'clock, they finish with lunch at 1 o'clock, and the cost is just £400 for that half day. Or if you send more than one person, then it's £300 per person for everybody from that business. I am conscious of time. We're rapidly approaching the hour, but we've got time for a few questions. Tats, are there any questions that have been coming in on the chat?
Yes, we've got a few actually. I'll start off with How often does an AI agent tell you it doesn't know the answer? Can you give any examples?
So the key thing is saying to it, if you don't know the answer, tell me. Then actually what it will do, it still doesn't give a straightforward, typically in my experience, it still doesn't give you a straightforward I just don't know, but it might be suggestive and it might say, do you mean this, or would this be helpful if I answered the question in this way? Um, but without that prompt that I shared in the custom instructions, then what you get and what you risk is this concept where they just fabricate the answer.
We've got another one as well of somebody saying they liked the idea of asking for help reviewing and summarizing my emails. We have Copilot within Office 365, so I asked if it could do that for me, and it said that it can't. Is there something additional that needs to be set up in the background?
So you've got two things. So that there is, and this is a bit confusing, and some of you will have seen the one of my earlier sessions, which was purely about understanding Microsoft Copilot. There are so many different Copilots, and what you need to make sure is that you've specifically got Copilot for Office 365, which is an add-on on top of your Office licensing. And if you've got that, then it will work. But we can chat to you. If you talk to your relationship manager, they can help you understand what licensing you've got and what changes needed to be added to individual people within your organization.
We've got one more. If you have multiple tenants, are Microsoft going to change the Copilot licensing so you can apply one license of Copilot to all the tenants?
Uh, I would like to think so. Currently, they're not. But yeah, there's plenty of people who are asking for that. So I would like to think that they are. All right. Well, if there are other questions, feel free to continue to ask them in the chat. We will certainly come back to you, or as I say, pick up the conversation with your relationship manager. You've got my contact details. You will get a follow-up email, and within the follow-up email, you can tick the box to get a copy of the slides. The slides have obviously got my contact details in them. If there's anything that I can do, or if you've got questions that you'd specifically like to send to me, by all means do so, and I will gladly come back to you. I really hope that that was useful. Thank you very much for your time today, and have a fantastic day.